Hey everybody, this is Tracy from A View from Tracy's Point, and today I'm going to switch it up a little bit because I want to let you guys know that aside from doing the television recaps, that I'm actually a published author. And so I want to talk today about my third novel, which was titled The Red Bear Society. And the reason I want to talk about the Red Bear Society today is because tomorrow, April 10th, is National Youth HIV/AIDS Awareness Day. And I'm sure a lot of people don't know that there is a day set aside for HIV awareness amongst youth. And when you hear statistics about youth and the National AIDS Awareness Day, they're referring to individuals that are aged 13 to 24. So it was a point where, well, first let me tell you about the book, and then I will get into some of the information about HIV stats. So the book, The Red Bear Society, is a fictional novel and is set at a diverse high school in St. Petersburg, Florida. But again, it's a fictional book, but the setting is in my hometown, St. Petersburg. And so at this school, they have like the traditional program, and then they also have a magnet program, which caters to kids that want to go into the medical profession. And then they have the International Baccalaureate program known as IB, which is for kids that it's not really marketed to kids who want to go into global corporations where they can work anywhere in the world. But that's basically what IB is for. But most people think, if you get into IB, it shows that you're really smart and all that good stuff. And actually, my daughter was in my oldest daughter was in IB, and then I have a nephew that graduated from the IB programs here in St. Petersburg. So the story, like I said, is set in St. Petersburg, and it starts out with a young woman. Her name is Sharon Robinson, and Sharon is a principal who's gone through some struggles after she left St. Petersburg. But then the opening comes up for the position at her alma mater, which is called Johnson White High School, and so she decides to apply for the position and come back home. So she gets the job and she sets off a firestorm when she has a assembly or an orientation for school, and she's doing like these statistics. And when the kids come to the orientation, they're each given a bear, a little small bear, because the mascot for the school is the black bears. So they're given these different color bears, and the kids get to choose which color bear they want. And when they get into the orientation, and after she does her little presentation about who she is, she starts talking about these statistics about how many of the kids are going to graduate from high school, how many will go to college, how many will graduate from college. And so she's just rolling all this stuff off, and then she says, and how many will contract HIV/AIDS in their, I think it was in their lifetime. And so basically, if you were holding a red bear, the red bears constituted the number of the kids from the total student body that was sitting there, like a statistical representation of how many of them would contract HIV. But instead of the parents understanding, the symbolism of what she was saying, they took it as she was saying that the child who had the red bear, was going to contract HIV in their lifetime. And so, people were calling for her firing, and they were, wanted the superintendent to do something about it, but he stood firm and supported her and was saying that, this is a serious issue. And so then there's a incident that causes the kids to want to have a blood drive. And when they have the blood drive, some of you may not know that when you donate blood, before that blood is actually makes it to a patient in need of blood, it goes through a series of tests where they determine, if you have any kind of sexually transmitted diseases, if there's other things in your blood, and they also test your blood for HIV. And so they will come back if you test positive for anything. So anything that comes up in the blood, they will notify you that this issue came up in the blood. And so, of course, they find out that a couple of the kids do have HIV. And so the story doesn't just focus on HIV, even though that's the main point, but it just also deals with other issues that children are dealing with, drug abuse, um, sexual harassment, bullying, teen pregnancy. So it's just a hodgepodge of things that your typical teenager in the 4 years that they are in high school may encounter some of these issues, whether it's personally or whether it's a friend dealing with those issues. And the thing I thought was so interesting about when the book came out is that my oldest daughter, is a school teacher, and I let her read the book, and I said, "Oh, do you think it's too much? Like our kids really going through this stuff?" And so she read the book and she came back and she was like, "Mom, kids in middle school are dealing with the same issues that you're talking about in this book." So I was just like, oh my God. So back up a little bit, what made me want to write this book? Well, so I have three daughters. I think I mentioned this in my other videos. I have three daughters. I have a 24-year-old, a 30-year-old who has autism, and then I have a 32-year-old who is the school teacher. So when I reference my daughter who's the school teacher, that's who I'm talking about. So my daughter and I, my youngest daughter, the 24-year-old, at the time that I wrote this book, she was in high school. And so the Johnson White High School is kind of modeled around the school that she actually attended for high school. And she was home one day and we were watching the show The Doctors. And on this episode of The Doctors, they had a panel of teenage girls, and they were talking about different issues that teen girls are faced with in school. And so they had the parents there, and they took the girls off and they had like a private discussion with them, and then they came back together for the taping of the show, and they had the mothers there. And so they started revealing this information that the girls had shared, and the majority of the parents were just like, they were shocked that their kids were sending text messages, images of themselves in sexually compromising positions, that they were actually sexually engaged already, because the statistics on teens and having sex is astronomical these days, that their kids were having unprotected sex, and just a hodgepodge of things that kids were dealing with. So that was my inspiration for actually writing the book. And how it came up with the title, The Red Bear Society, is because after there's like all these events that are taking place and coming to light amongst the students. And so they decide to get together and form like a support group to help their friends who've gone through a lot of things. And they decide to name the book The Red Bear Society. And that red is the color that represents HIV. So anytime you have like World AIDS Day, Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, Women and Girls, Hispanic, National HIV Testing Day. It's just a lot of days that are dedicated to HIV. The ribbon is always red. So the bear symbolizes the school's mascot, and then the red is for HIV, and then so I put it together and made the Red Bear Society. Now, I probably should have mentioned this earlier in the video, and I think I'll put something at the beginning. But there's a challenge out right now. It's called #DoingIt. So if you see #DoingIt showing up like on Twitter and other social media feeds, what they're actually doing is getting tested for HIV. So because tomorrow is for youth, what my thing is, I want to encourage parents to have the difficult conversation with your kids and talk about HIV, talk about whether they are already having sex, what they can do to protect themselves. Because one of the statistics for HIV is in 2015, 8,807 youth, so youth would be anyone from 13 to 24, were diagnosed with HIV in the United States. And so 80% of those diagnosed, I shouldn't say thankfully, but 78 what did I say? 80%, I'm sorry, of those diagnosed were between the ages of 20 and 24. So this is sort of like your college age students, but that still means that 20% were under the age of 20. So there's still work to do to educate our youth. And then I want to break this down by the numbers, because a large percentage of youth that are diagnosed with HIV are gay and bisexual men. But we can't be so focused on that aspect of it, because I like to zero in on the bisexual part, because bisexual means that you're having sex with men and women. And one of the disappointing aspects of AIDS awareness for me is the fact that they kind of brush it aside that girls are being impacted and infected with HIV. And so I think that there needs to be more focus on the bisexual part, and that letting girls know that they need to protect themselves, that they need to be aware that if you're sleeping with a boy or a man who's having sex with other men, that you are putting yourself at greater risk of contracting HIV or even AIDS. And so just to break some of these numbers down to you, of that 8,807 people that were diagnosed with HIV, 4,204 were Black or African American males. That is almost half of the diagnoses. And then we have 1,786 that were Hispanic males, 1,327 that were white males. And then when you go over to the female side, you had 677 that were Black or African American girls, 179 white, and I shouldn't say girls, I'm going to say females, because the age range is 13 to 24. So 179 white females and 171 Hispanics. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done in educating in the Black and African American communities. And we can get mad and get upset and not want to talk about it, but it is a conversation that needs to be had. And so I am here today to say, if you have a teenager between the ages of 13 and 18, I am going to encourage you to pick up this book, The Red Bear Society. Read the book, have your youth read the book, and then please engage in a conversation. And so you're doing it is I'm going to do it and talk to my youth today, and then I'm going to go encourage, because you can't make your child go get tested for HIV. It has to be their decision. But your child, if they don't want to go with you as the parent and get tested, they can, I believe at the age of 13, children can get tested without their parents' consent. They just need to find a location that offers testing. And usually Walgreens drugstores, on any National HIV Awareness Day, Walgreens will offer free testing. So I think that was it. Get the book. I'm thinking that I'm going to offer the Kindle version for free tomorrow, probably for the next 2 or 3 days. I do it every year on National Youth HIV Day. The book actually came out in 2012, but every year on April 10th, I offer the book for free on Kindle. So I think I'm going to do that again, starting probably tomorrow morning or midnight tonight, I think is when Amazon will kick it off. And so probably for the next 2 or 3 days, you can download the book for free. If you want a physical copy of the book and you want an autograph, you can go to my website, which is tracyldarity.com, and I'll put the information below, tracyldarity.com, and purchase the book from the website, and I will autograph it to you or whomever you want, put any note that you want in there. Or if you just want a copy of the book, you can go to amazon.com, Red Bear Society, and purchase a physical copy of the book. And so I think that was all I wanted to say on this episode. April 10th, National Youth HIV/AIDS Awareness Day. And if you have a youth, know a youth, teach a youth, or love a youth between the ages of 13 and 18, please pick up your copy of the Red Bear Society, and let's get the conversation started. So everybody take care and have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye bye.